Hello everyone, my name is Tosavanta Pradhan and I'm going to speak about Introduction to Stone Tool Technology. So today we'll learn basics about the stone tool technology. So before going to the stone tool technology, let us also know about the human evolution. So human evolution is a long evolutionary process and it took millions of years to coming from an ape-like species to the complete human or the modern Homo sapiens sapiens. So when you talk about the stone tool is very important in the initial human evolutions or the initial stage where we're struggling between the lot of different carnivore species struggling for food. So what is important about the human is that we are one of the creatures who have the ability to learn, accumulate knowledge, and pass it to the future generation. Literally speaking, the stone tool technology is the first technology that was made by human or innovated by human. So what is also important about all this process is this is a time something about about 4 million years back where we started learning how to break a stone and how to make a tool out of it. So initially we were using the naturally available stone tools, but the first record came from a site called uh, Lumikia in Lake Turkana, that is located in the Rift Valley in the Kenya. So now what is also important here is we need to understand when you talk about the stone tool that how it's evolved with the different species. So as you know that the human have different brain capacity and accordingly probably this stone tool technology also evolved or the different time period. So initial stage we just know how to break a stone. Then later on, but also we see that, for example, like now when you come to the older one, we started making the different type of tool and particularly on the flake. So we know how to break a core. The next is what came in the case of the stone tool is this another stage that is called the Esulian. So Esulian started somewhere else about 1.7 million years back, and there are different sites obviously on the Esulians. Also in India, this is the first stage where we find several sites, and the important sites I just mentioned: Athirimpakkam, that is dated about 1.5 millions, Isampur 1.2 million, and there are also important sites like Methakadi, Morgaon, and here also Bori. Anyhow, if you look into the older state of the stone tool, that is goes to about 3.3 million, and the old one goes to 2.6 million. That is the site called Gona, which is the oldest old one sites. Anyhow, if you look into the evolutions of the stone tools, what we see is we see the stone tools initially they're bigger in size, and then later on what happen is they become smaller in size and technologically they're more sophisticated and then they are more effective. Also, there is a changes in this raw material. For example, like if you look into the later succeeding phases, if you come to the middle Paleolithic or Microlithic, these raw materials have become more refined, or they started preferring the more lighter material and also what they give you more sharp edges. So now just to show you an example of a Lumikian, that is the 3.3 million. This is the earliest known stone tool ever found in the world, and this is Lake Turkana. And here this is the example of the old one stone tool that is dated to about 2.6 million, and then here 1.7 million, that is the Esulian. So now next uh, come to the chronology of the stone ages. So Lomikian 3.3, 2.6, old one 2.6 to 1.7, and the Esulian that is from 1.7 to 200,000. But in the case of India, the youngest state continued till about 100,000. And then there is a overlapping of the Esulian and the Middle Paleolithic. So the earliest date again coming from Athirimpakkam in India, that is about 400,000, and it's continued till about 40,000 years. Then the Upper Paleolithic started somewhere else about 50,000 in India, earliest date from Methakedi, and it continued about 10,000 BC. Then the Mesolithic started again with the beginning of the Holocene, and it's continued till about 3000 BC, or the Microliths continued till about very late, particularly till about Iron Age in different parts of India. If you talk about the Neolithic started in the northwestern India, and then it's continued till about 1000 BC in southern India, and then it continued quite late, probably till about 700 BC in northeast India. So then what is also important here is how do we identify a stone tool? So this is the very easiest job, but for the common man this is the very toughest job. So what you need to understand is that first, when the human break a stone tool, they have a control force. So when they break it, there are certain features will be there from where you are going to identify the whether it's a stone tool or not, or it's a natural. So in a stone tool, what you'll find is at one side you'll find the different ridges. These are called the flake scar, and on the other side you'll find the ripple marks. So one side you'll have the flake scar, the other side you'll have the ripples mark, and then the local rock that you see in that area would be obviously different, because most often the Paleolithic men, they transported the raw material from one side to the other side. Okay, and what is also you'll be finding that is this sharp edges will be there at uh, different side of the stone tool, and that's how you're going to identify it. The next is when you talk about the stone tools, so they are made from a certain type of rocks. So they mostly choose the metamorphic rock, igneous rock, and sedimentary rock. And out of them in India, they've used quartzite, granite, basalt, and limestone for making the lower Paleolithic, and the during the middle Paleolithic they started using particularly the types of different type of charts, and also quartzite continued some places. So what is also important is the stone tool cannot be made from all the different type of rocks. So they just choose a certain type of rocks where they give better sharp edges. And the stone tools are mostly made on rocks and not on minerals. Then what is also important here is to understand the flaking angle. So when they break a stone with another stone, it basically involves a technology. And this technology is called what? The stone tool technology, where you break a stone with a particular angle. So in this angle, what happened? The angle would be somewhere else about 120 to till about 170, but other side it would be about 60 to somewhere about 80-85 degree. So again, the important here is that the stone tool technology of the different periods are very different. So we have divided the stone tool technology into three different phases, that is the Paleolithic technology, or the Microlithic technology, or the Neolithic technology. So what comes in the case of the Paleolithic technologies? The large flake technology, bifacial or the hand axe of the cleaver technology. The next is when you come to the middle Paleolithic, the Lavalva technology become more common, and also the flake blade technology is also very commonly seen in the case of the middle Paleolithic. But when you come to the microlithic, particularly we see the blade technology, and when you come to the Neolithic or the new Stone Age, there you see mostly in the Indian cases they have used dolerite for making the Neolithic axes, and they use the chipping, grinding, and polishing technique for making the Neolithic axes and tools. So now just to show you how the stone tools are created, how you break a stone. So in order to make a stone tool, you need to heat one stone with another stone, okay? And then when you heat it at one place, this is called the point of impact, and then a piece of flake will come out, or a piece of stone will be detached out of it according to the force and angle you apply, and this will be called as core, this will be called as flake. And here what is important is this, you see here, sorry, so you see here one side of the flake you will have the positive bulb, however the other side will have the negative bulb, and this is what we call the platform, the place where you hit. So now come to the different napping technique or different type of techniques for making the stone tool. So there are three techniques. One is the direct percussion, second one is the indirect percussion, and the third one is the pressure technique. So direct percussion means what? You heat a stone with directly. Okay, so you generally heat with a stone, that is a hammer stone. You hit it directly with another stone. So this technology was continued throughout all the Stone Ages period. But particularly this technique was confined only to uh, the Assyrian or the Old One time period. They have used only the direct percussion. In the case of the indirect percussion, what also we find is the indirect percussion, they have also used what the for the making the blade technology. So blade technology is very often when you try to make a longer blade, okay, in that case you need to use a small antler, pointed antler as a medium. So when you give a force here, so this give you a blades here, okay, so the blade will be come out of one side, and this is also another type of the indirect percussion technique. So in this case, this is called the counter blow technique, where you have seen the bead making, particularly the Anbar make the beads, and this how this could be the pointed antler, or could be a iron, and then here you hold the raw material, and this is the hammer. So this is basically the horn, animal horn, can be buffalo horn or any other antler. The next is the pressure technique. So the pressure technique is mostly used for making the micro blade. So micro blades are very often made by using the pressure technique. So this tiny blades can be used, can be removed from a small core. Particularly what you see, the fluted cores are there. Mostly the pressure technique has been used in that case. So these are the example of the hand axe and cleaver. So these are mostly used by using the uh, hard hammer technique and the soft hammer technique. Okay, and this is the example of the earliest the hand axes, and then when you come to the later stage, they become more refined. Uh, they use also the different better quality of raw material, and then these are some example of again the different shapes of the hand axes. So hand axes are basically a multi-purpose tool. It can be called as a Swiss uh, knife of a Paleolithic man for different multi-purpose tools. These are the cleavers mostly used for cutting or chopping, and those have a very broad edge. Mostly cleavers are made always on the large flakes. So this is the purpose of the different type of stone tools. So choppers can be used for chopping, or for crushing some maybe bones or anything else. Okay, the as I told you, hand axe is again it's a multi-purpose tool. Can be used for digging, can be used for cutting, can be used for scraping, can be used for cracking knots. The next level of point could be used for hunting. Okay, so the point could be hefted, and then these are the other different tools used for different purpose. So next is when you come to the direct percussion, again there are two different types of direct percussion. One is the soft hammer, the other one is the hard hammer. So in the case of the hard hammer, you have the technology called anvil technique or the block to block technique. So block to block, what you do is you use two bigger rocks. So one rocks you keep it in the surface, the other one you hold it in the both hand and then you hit onto the another. That is called the block to block. Then the next one is the anvil technique. So in this case, what you do is you put a anvil on the surface, and then one stone you put over the anvil, and then you hit with another hammer stone. So that's how you remove a flake. That is called the anvil technique. The next is you have the direct percussion on soft hammer. So the soft hammer can be used for making different type of stone tool. For example, like the siliceous rock. The siliceous rock, if you are using, so in that case, if you use a soft hammer, you can save the rock very easily. So the soft hammers are very often used in the case of the European Acheulean and also the Middle Paleolithic. But in the case of India, mostly they have used the hard hammer technique. Soft hammer techniques are not very well known. The next is the indirect percussion, that is the blade technology. So in this case, you generally make longer and larger blade. And here, this is the pressure technique. Pressure techniques are mostly used for making the tiny blades or for retouching. So the pressure can be used by giving different shaft, okay, or it could be making a pointed antler, or if you also are going to do the experiment, also you can use the metal point. This is how a microlithic blades are made. So this is the unmodified pebble. Then here you nap it from one side, and then you prepare the core, and then this is removal of the first blade. The first blade, when you remove this, the ridges guide you to remove the successive blade, and that's how you regenerate the core, and again you also continue removing the blades. This is how to show you how from a blade the tiny the microlithic tools are made, that is the trapeze, triangle, and all those geometric microliths are made from a blade. And this is just to show you the example of the microlithic hefting, because the microlithics are very tiny tool, and that can be hefted on a bone, or can be hefted on the animal teeth. For example, like the animal jaw, they remove the teeth and then they insert the microlith on that, or the blade on there, and then they use it as a sickle. This is another example of a knife where they have inserted the blades. And this is some basic books on the stone tool technology if you want to know more about the stone tool technology. And there are a few more books. That's it for now. Thank you.